We can't say the future without AI. I mean, there's no way around it. 50% of workers now believe AI is going to improve their experience. When I come into the meeting room, I need a way to incorporate my AI with what's going on in the meeting. It's almost a bring your own AI type of a concept. Most of what we do in our day-to-day is going to change significantly.
Hear the latest AV trends and predictions in this episode of Crestron's Smarter Spaces podcast on your preferred podcast platform.
FC Bayern Basketball Club is set to permanently install an ASB GlassFloors, their innovative LED court floor at Munich's BMW Park Arena. How do we use this technology and design the experiences using it?
Well, see, that's the thing, right? Like, if I can't fit it in the budget, it doesn't matter. I'd love to design with it. Just, show me a client with the money.
Show me the money.
Show you the money.
Oh, no, you can do better than that, Jerry. I want you to say it with meaning, brother.
Yeah, no, show you the money.
Not show you, show me the money.
Show me the money.
Yeah.
Basketball courts made of direct view LED, eSports, and AV. And higher ed tech leaders discuss biggest needs heading into the new school year. All that and more next on AV Week. This is AV Week, episode 680, recorded Friday, August 30th, 2024. Show me the money. This is AV Week, your weekly wrap-up of the biggest news and information we have gathered. My name is Tim Albright. I am your host. With us to discuss the news and information, first and foremost, Bren Walker from Kierkegaard. Welcome, madam.
Hey, Tim. Thanks for having me. Good to see you. Happy summer.
Good to see you. Happy summer. Almost not. Well, let's just put it this way. The pumpkin spice latte is always already available at Starbucks. I don't know if that's an indication. I mean, technically fall is not here. Like if you look at the solstice thing.
Screw them, man. Still summer.
I don't know. It's still summer, but you can already buy Halloween candy at Walmart. So anyhow, the Reverend Christopher Hope from the Loop Lab. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Tim, and happy Labor Day weekend, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely. We're recording this the Friday before Labor Day, so a bunch of us get off on Monday. And last but not least, Jamie Swigert. Jamie is new to us, but he has been with Atlona for quite a while. So welcome, Jamie.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate it. And just for the record, even here in the Chicago area, we hit 100 degrees this week. So definitely still summertime here as well.
Okay, that's fair,
yeah.
Right? If Chicago's still in 100 degrees, we're still in summer. All right, first story comes to us from over our friends at AV Magazine. They held a roundtable discussion with a ton of higher education leaders. They highlighted the ongoing challenges faced by universities and colleges in the post-pandemic era. Some of the issues that the higher ed folks raised, they're grappling with things like blending in-person and online experiences, managing increased student numbers in limited spaces, and creating flexible, multi-use learning environments. The experts emphasized the importance of maintaining pandemic-era innovations like lecture recording, assistive technologies, easy for me to say, while addressing the different levels of technological aptitudes of faculty members. That means some of the old professors don't know what they're doing with the buttons. That's what that means. The discussion also revealed a stark contrast between higher education and corporate sectors, with universities more prone to innovation and knowledge sharing through organizations like LTSMG and our friends at HETMA. Bren, first question goes to you. What can universities do to manage a lot of these new expectations and a lot of these new needs?
Well, I think to create autonomous production studios, because they have a lot of content to generate now. It's not only with the sort of blending that came through COVID, but also, we're in an era where people are never ending their education. Education is perpetual. And so if a university is not in that game of getting their alumni back for continuing education and offering other programs where they're bringing in people who maybe weren't alumni for future education at all stages of life. And in order to do that competitively, you have to have great content. And I think that there were a lot of things exposed about what makes great content when you're not in the room during COVID. And it's a high bar for a lot of universities to reach just from a staffing standpoint. So one way to get there is to use the available tools to automate your production. So beamforming microphones and automatic camera switching, like these are technologies that should be used in higher education because it will help them and it'll eliminate it. They can get to the place where they can eliminate the need for an operator. I have to say this, that, they're sort of universities are dealing with the situation that they have wrought, right? Because they've treated students like customers. They've priced the education like they're dealing with a private market.
Even the public ones.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so now they have to step up to the plate. And there's really great, interesting audio-visual content available for free all the time at anyone's fingertips that they're not paying for. So what they're paying for better be good. The experience that is in the room and the one outside of it.
There is an old analogy, Bren, I used to, when I was a tech manager, we were a small community college, right? Southwest Illinois, just outside of St. Louis. And a dear mentor of mine made the comment, this is late 2000s or early 2010s, our technology has to be on par or better, is the preference, than what these students have in their living rooms. Because if that's not, they will discount us as an institution, right? And a little bit what you just said there about, we have wrought that. Chris, you run an education institution, so I'll ask you kind of a more point, the same pointed question is what can you do? What can universities and colleges do to meet this new need?
Yes, as the founder and executive director of the Loop Lab, we teach young adults 18 to 30 years old how to get into the audio video industry. And we partner with a lot of universities in the area, Lesley University, Harvard University, which have a lot of robust pro AV needs. And so we actually send a lot of our students to help fill some of those missing spots. But I would say a big headache for many universities that we partner with here in the greater Boston area has been really the lack of workforce. Oftentimes in universities, they have a pro AV department and they're often understaffed, under-budgeted, and just really wrought with poor workforce development and pipelining issues. And so there's a lot of gaps that need to be filled because, again, when you're talking about an ever-expanding university, you're talking about an ever-expanding set of pro AV needs across the board. So I think being able to invest more in workforce development, training, and support within AV on campuses should be of paramount importance. Providing that adequate training and also for faculty and staff, I think will alleviate some of the issues of professors and lecturers not really knowing how to utilize equipment. I lecture at Boston University. Thankfully, I have a CTS and I've worked in the industry. I know how to use the equipment in the classroom. However, not everyone is on that same level. And so it becomes another challenge where people need support and troubleshooting. Another thing that I think would be very important is setting more realistic timelines and expectations about AV needs on campus. I think that oftentimes things need to be done. AV tends to be the last thing on everyone's mind, even though it really is one of the most important things, especially when you talk about getting close to graduation time, right? All the different events that are happening, the graduation adjacent events, they all need AV support. And so I think setting realistic timelines in advance for deployment and really the integration of some of these AV systems and the service to those systems needs to be at the top of mind for universities and colleges and spaces of education and training.
Jamie, from the manufacturer standpoint, you read the article, listened to the higher education folks. What can manufacturers do to help them achieve some of these goals?
Yeah, I tell you, it's getting increasingly difficult for all of us, not just manufacturers, but for all of us involved in I think higher ed, as well as K-12 AV. I think we always have to go back and understand one thing before we talk about the technology, which is the generation of students going through college have grown up with digital media, with iPads and iPhones and computers. And in a sense that they have learned to learn differently. Their brains are wired differently than when we went through school, where we sat and listened to a teacher and took notes on a piece of paper with a pencil, right? So their brains are wired to learn differently. And to Bren's point, if all we're doing is the same teaching style and the same teaching content and just getting it up onto a display, I don't think that's going to cut it, right? It's the content, the way the content's created has to be able to speak to the students in the way that they have learned everything else in their life up to that point. So from the content creation standpoint, it needs to be simpler. And so whether that means you have a specialist that creates that content that may happen to be a multimedia whiz, or we just make the content creation simple enough that a professor can figure out their way through it, through some training, and create some really compelling, involved multimedia content with visuals, with audio. I think the other side of it after the content creation is the delivery, right? Again, if all we're doing is throwing something up on a screen, that's not really doing justice or getting us where we need to be. So I think we need learning spaces with not just a big screen, but with audio, so that not only are voices clear, but they're getting the impact of the video that's on the screen, right? If we're studying about space and flying through space on a spaceship, the students need to feel that, not just see it. So I think there's a lot from the manufacturer side that can go into creating that environment. But then we get back to the issue of budget and, how many of those types of setups can a university really afford to install? Certainly probably not one in every single room, right?
No, and also install, but also maintain, right? Does your
Right.
tech staff have the chops to maintain those as well? Absolutely.
Well, I'll say this: we're finishing an XR extended reality stage designed for a high school, and I know they won't be the last one, right? Like, in many ways, the sort of virtual production setup is the new auditorium. Every school has some gathering space that everyone uses at some point and is directly related to how we communicate to each other. The auditorium was set up as in the old paradigm of a person or a group of people blast out to you a thing, right?
Yep.
I mean, the fact that lecture is still even a part of education is kind of funny in a way when you think about it. Like, it should be going away, because a lot of what that is imparting, you can get in different ways. So I think that the notion of virtual production, or being able to immerse students in, as you were saying, Jamie, I think that will be gettable and accessible to everybody. And it will hit a certain point where every school will have to have it, because this is the same way that you teach someone, that schools have arts programs. Let's hope still that schools still have arts programs. But the same way that you need to learn the other things outside of the hard sciences, it'll just be a different platform in which to do it, I think.
Yeah. All right, our next story takes us over to Europe. FC Bayern Basketball Club is set to permanently install an ASB GlassFloors, their innovative LED court floor at Munich's BMW Park Arena. The system, which made its debut as a temporary installation during the team's 2023 season opener, features millions of LEDs beneath a durable glass surface. The high-tech floor can display traditional court markings, dynamic advertising, and real-time game data. This is revolutionizing the fan experience. Now, the design, it's also designed to last 70 years without resurfacing the floor. Also boasts superior elasticity and grip compared to traditional hardwood. The system's AI integration allows for advanced training features, displaying player positions and performance metrics during practice sessions, potentially changing the game both on and off the court. Mr. Hope, start with you on this. Where else do we see LEDs?
So I would say that before I get into that, I was very much put on to this year at the AT&T Slam Dunk contest. I was just blown away at the contest, because to see the players and how the actual screen was interacting with them in real time across the court, it was really amazing. So I just want to just highlight that, for all our sports fans. From my perspective, I think that there's a couple of things. One is museums and exhibitions. I believe that if we're not already, we're going to see a lot of this technology be there in the sense of interaction, right? AV is about enhancing experiences, and I think this has the potential to really create interactive displays. The floor really could showcase like dynamic exhibits, historical data in real time, which I think is phenomenal. Another place that I can see this in is also corporate events and conferences. So really employing this in corporate settings, really kind of these high impact presentations and events within the tech economy and beyond. And a third space that I think all of our marketing folks will love is retail environments. I could definitely see the glass floor being utilized as a marketing tool. You come into the store and there's interactive advertisement, right? Or product information, or even promotional content. And it could be based on a variety of things, depending on how interactive they want to make it. So there's a lot of potential for this, as long as there's money. And we all know that this industry definitely loves enhancing experiences and has the opportunity to do that.
Jamie, same kind of question is, where else do we see these displays making appearances?
I think the short answer is wherever there can be a return on the investment, right? So Chris finished with the cost. The article didn't say who knows how much this thing costs, right? Millions of dollars.
Well, they've got 70 years to get an ROI on this. So,
right.
I doubt the building will be there in 70 years. But no, if you think about it, right, I'm sure there was a long financial analysis that said, if we make this a premier venue and we have all this wow factor, we can get this many more butts and seats with this much more seat revenue. We can put advertising on the floor. We get the revenue from that. And somebody did the math and said, hey, it's worth it. Just like the Sphere, right? Well, I think it's still to be seen whether that's going to return any money at the end of the day. But So I disagree a little bit. I don't see this as kind of like a statement piece in a conference center. I think it's got to be someplace where it's really driving revenue, right? Not just enhancing, at least until the cost of this technology comes down. I think we're still a ways away from that.
Bren, you are my resident designer and AV architect, so I'm simply going to ask you, how do we design these spaces? How do we use this technology and design the experiences using it?
Well, see, that's the thing, right? Jamie hit right on it. Because if I can't fit it in the budget, it doesn't matter. And I've actually done some transparent LED designs to present to clients, and they're still trying to get that donor to say, to put the dollars to it. I guess I look at it and I see not necessarily an enhancement to the fan experience. I see an enhancement to the sponsor experience. Okay. And that's really what that's about to me. Is it something that you could see across leagues? Let's see what the players say after playing on it for 2 or 3 years, right? Because that's a big deal. I mean, that's a pretty big change in your workplace condition, right? So, and it may or may not work for players. So, but the thing that I get excited about with new technology, or with as technology that it becomes new to more people, right? Because this sort of thing has been around. But what I like about it is what may happen if it gets in the hands of an artist who may do something completely different with it that has nothing to do with what we typically think about being, quote, AV. But, immersive visual art is exploding and is a multi-billion-dollar, exhibition potential. So it'll be interesting to see what more artists do with it, to me. I'd love to design with it. Just, show me a client with the money.
Show me the money.
I was just going to say that you're right. Absolutely right, Bren. And I think about chains that are really expanding and blowing up. For example, Meow Wolf. There's a Meow Wolf in, Nevada, and also, Nevada and other corners of the Southwest. But just thinking about how these spaces are blowing up around the country, if not the world. And I think that there is going to be a place with this, but I do agree with Jamie that the cost can be prohibitive. And so the actual equipment, the installation, just we have to figure out a cheaper or less expensive way to make it happen.
All right. Final story actually comes to us from our own website. Robert Heron writes for us about eSports. He traces the eSports back to 50 plus years ago. I am not going to comment whether or not I was alive when Mr. Heron's article was referencing, but I was. And how the technological advances from arcade games to high-speed internet and sophisticated gaming consoles have transformed competitive gaming into a quote-unquote global phenomenon. Today's esports landscape features diverse game genres from first-person shooters to real-time strategy games, attracting millions of fans worldwide. The report also delves into the cutting-edge equipment used by pro gamers, and live esports competitions. These include DVLED monitors, AV over IP, and KVM switches. Jamie, we'll start with you on this. Generic statement, generic question, because the last couple of years at Infocom, they've had an esports facility, an esports pavilion, sponsored by AVI Systems. It's where folks could come and actually, quite frankly, play a number of competitive esports competitions. So where does esports belong in the world of AV?
Well, I don't know where it belongs, but it certainly is AV, right? I think we were talking about that before. Like, is esports AV? And I would say if a basketball floor can be AV, then certainly esports can be AV, I think. Funny enough, at Infocom, we actually did in part of our booth, we did an esports setup to demonstrate, as you said, AV over IP in our control system. And it was great. It drew a lot of people in. Everybody was stopping by, and we let people play Rocket League, so it was interactive as well. The interesting thing, like from an application standpoint, if you're thinking about the actual competition side of it, the events and the competition, in the world of signal distribution, we're always focused on latency, right? Who's got the lowest latency? We brag about how many milliseconds latency we have. That's actually a bad thing when it comes to esports, because they want the signal to be delayed a bit before it gets to the general viewership. Otherwise, somebody can gain a competitive advantage by seeing what somebody else, what their competitor is doing. So there's a lot of little things about esports that are different than those of us who are sort of traditionally focused on conference rooms within office buildings or a classroom, right? It's a little bit of a different animal. But I think certainly there's a lot of traditional product that can go into it, as I was talking about with the AV over IP. The ability to route that player's gameplay, that AV signal of his gameplay, to a coach's stations, to a shoutcaster station, up to a jumbotron, or wherever you want to put it. I mean, that's bread and butter of what we do in signal distribution.
Bren, I have seen and been gotten backstage tours of places like USC. They have an esports training facility. A number of high schools do now, because you have esports scholarships. Where does esports belong in AV?
Well, I think Jamie was right. It's the same. To me, it's even calling it esports to me is sort of like a relic from the last century in a way. It's just gaming as a sport, right? As opposed to gaming for casual play. And the same way we provide AV for, the football games on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, to me, it's sort of the same. Obviously the technical needs are different. I think that, the pandemic sort of pushed it into a particular kind of spotlight because people could do it without people having to gather. And I think it also, for our industry, there was a moment where if you didn't have anything else that if your business was at a lull because of the pandemic, there are two things that you could go chase. You could go chase live streaming, and you could go chase esports. And so hence, to me, that's why it's had this sort of bigger position at Infocom. I don't know that should be any bigger than any other sort of sporting activity or whatever. It just sort of feels like that's a function of the time at which it made its ascent at Infocom, even though, there have been big esports programs at some of the major schools for more than a decade, with sponsors and everything.
Chris, you'll have the last word on this. Same kind of question is, where does it belong in the industry?
Yeah, the two pieces that come to mind for me is first, esports is a spectator sport. And so when I think about spectator sports, really the quality of live streaming and broadcasting becomes essential. And that's smack in the dab in the middle of what we do in this industry. Professional AV, where our goal is to provide the smooth, high definition broadcast, all the streams, and enhancing really viewer attention to what you're watching. And so I think definitely the AV streaming and broadcasting is essential. And the last thing I'll share is the fan experience. If you've been to a esports event or event space or an arena, there's enhancements that are there in terms of how you experience it. LED screens that you can watch the gaming from, immersive sound systems, the dynamic lighting when something happens on the PlayStation 5 and folks are going at it on Call of Duty. So I just think that using Pro AV as an opportunity to integrate some of the enhancements of how fans experience it in person as well as broadcast in terms of remotely really is key.
I'd say it's critical for the industry to embrace it the same way we embrace the other cool stuff that AV does as a means of keeping our workforce coming in. I'll never forget being in the music industry and wondering, at a record label, where did our interns go? Our interns all went to go work at game companies. We stopped being cool and game development started being cool, right? So for AV as an industry, we talk all the time about our labor shortages and the issues that we have with our workforce development. We need to embrace the cool so that people want to come be a part of it.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And I have a dear friend he graduated from Webster here in St. Louis, and he was courted by both record labels and gaming labels.
Wow.
And he went to go work for a gaming label because this was the late 90s, right? But it was more creative. He had better opportunity. And if you've never played a video game, go find somebody who does. And the music there, directly to Brent's point, the music scoring is incredible, right? I am not saying that it's going to beat, the Rolling Stones, but it is still some good quality stuff that they've created. And that's because they went out and got some really great musicians.
We need to embrace cool stuff as an industry and not just big, outlandish things like the Sphere, right?
Yeah.
But
everyday. The Sphere is awesome.
Yeah, but, everyday cool, though. Everyday cool.
I'll give you everyday cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that very thing, Brent. Chris, I was looking at your website this morning and looking at all the cool stuff you do there. And I thought to myself, I had the same exact thought, esports is something that is cool to a young generation of people that we have a chance of pulling into the AV industry. And if we don't, we're going to be in trouble in another 10 or 15 years, right? We're all getting like me with gray in their beards, and that's not necessarily a good thing.
Nothing wrong with gray in your beard or your hair.
Nothing wrong with it. We just need some fresh blood coming in to replace us.
Anyhow, on that note, Brent Walker, thank you so much. How do people connect with you or Kierkegaard?
You connect with Kierkegaard at Kierkegaard.com, me, Brent, at Kierkegaard.com, and, I occasionally fly by LinkedIn, Brendan J. Walker.
All right. Mr. Hope, thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. How do people connect with you or the Loop Lab?
All right. Please look at our website, www.thelooplab.org. You have to say the whole thing, The Loop Lab. It's kind of like a Tribe Called Quest. You got to do the whole thing. And also they can get in touch with me. You can get in touch with me at chope@thelooplab.org.
All right. Very good. Jamie Swigert from Atlona. Thank you, sir. How do people connect with you or Atlona?
I'm on LinkedIn as well, and unlike Brent, I'm on there quite frequently. That's my social media choice. Atlona.com, jamie.swigert@atlona.com.
All right, very good. For me, for Tim Albright, if you follow me on Twitter, you're going to hear me complain or celebrate the Bears, one of the two. But if you want something a little bit more...
The dark season is about to begin.
I am just saying, if you've not watched Hard Knocks, go take a look at it. I'm not going to say we're going 18-0, but I am cautiously optimistic. How about that?
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic.
Everyone needs something to dream for, right? Everyone needs something to believe in.
It's the hope that kills you, Tim.
Here's the thing. Bren's a Browns fan, so I am very careful how I couch the Bears' inevitable horrible season. But, right now, I'm hopeful. Okay,
Good
give
for you,
me that.
man. Hope is in the air.
And on the show.
Hope is on the show. If you want something more substantive, you can find me on LinkedIn, but the Twitter is going to be nothing but the Bears. I am going to CEDIA. This will be posted on Labor Day here in the States. So this week you can find me in Denver from the 5th through the 7th of September. If you are a member of HETMA or you're going to HETMA's golf tournament, you can find me the following week at the HETMA golf tournament in Southern California. So if you're going, come by and say hi. But for AVNation, go by our website, avnation.tv. That's avnation.tv. You will find this program and a host of others. Our fantastic producer, Mitchell, has just published a brand new Women in AV, so you can go check that out, as well as all of the others. All that and more at avnation.tv. It's avnation.tv. Thanks so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. That is all the time we have for AV Week.
The network for the AV industry.
What are you listening to?
This
is AV.
This
is AVNation.
This is AVNation.
Hello, this is Steve Greenblatt, host of AVNation's A State of Control podcast. Each month, Rich Fregosa and I explore trending topics related to control programming and automation in the audiovisual industry. We speak with a variety of AV professionals who share their perspectives, knowledge, and experiences. Please join us for this monthly conversation. Check out A State of Control on avnation.tv or wherever you get your podcasts.